Guys, we're back.
We are back.
Woo! Yeah. It's Sunday. You guys, it's weird. Since the pandemic starting, I've been sleeping a ton. And because today was the beginning, well, this is a hockey podcast, we should point out.
Not anymore.
Talking about F1 today.
It's changed this morning.
A hockey podcast anymore.
Like, normally we start the show, it's like, hey, we're back. But right now, we're just so... I can't remember the last time I woke up at 8 a.m. more than one day in a row.
We are back.
Yeah, and so is F1, guys. Today was the Austrian Grand Prix, the first race of the season. I predicted it, guys. I was right. Valtteri James. This is Valtteri. Well done. Valtteri Bottas wins pole position and wins first for the Mercedes. Lewis Hamilton would have been second, but he had a 5-second time penalty for basically repeating history like the Brazilian Grand Prix last year. Knocking poor Alex Albon right out of the way of the podium. Daniel, how'd you feel about that?
I was disappointed, but he's a young guy. He'll keep building up, but I'm excited to keep watching him. Mm-hmm. But you can't beat Lewis Hamilton, man.
This is very true. Lewis, man, I mean, Lewis should have given him a bit more room. Like, Jesus Christ. But Alex, I feel like you're very happy because Lando Norris, the young man.
Lando Norris finished. Well, he finished fourth, but because of Lewis Hamilton, finished on a podium. Third place.
We love him.
20-year-old Lando Norris finished in third place.
I really feel like he took command the same way Lando took command of the Falcon at the end of episode 5.
I really hope his parents named him Lando after Lando. And I think half the reason I like Lando Norris, besides the fact he has a personality, it's just really fun to yell Lando. And guys, we talked about P1 and P3. But your boy Charles Leclerc brings home P2 for Scooter A.
He proved himself. I don't think the Ferrari car it did not look good.
No, it didn't. Somehow Vettel finished 10th. Thankfully, he got some points. But the Spinarella, what do they call Vettel? Like the Spinarella or something? It's a whole joke with him. He had a pretty brutal spin out at Sebastian Vettel. But hey, Charles Leclerc, what a handsome man. The eyes of a Greek god has Charles Leclerc. I love that guy.
Not a good day for Red Bull.
No, it was not.
No. That puts them in such a tricky position because a lot of people were saying, this could be Red Bull's chance to make a push with the spending cap coming, and now the spending cap being pushed a year. But, Max not finishing the race, Albon finishing in 13th, it puts or 12th. I don't remember exactly where it finished, 13th, but 13th. It puts the team in the constructors wise, it puts them in a really poor situation because how many times over the next, right now I think there's 7 more races. How many times is Mercedes gonna end up like that, having no points, let alone one of Hamilton or Bottas not scoring the points and losing their position in the Drivers' Championship? I don't know. It seems like such a poor start to the season, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, quite a few races left. But you know who did push?
Pierre Gasly.
Yes.
He did it.
No.
He listened to Christian Horner. When they say push, he pushed, even though Christian Horner wasn't in his ear this time.
Only took him another year.
So in 7th. Yeah. Pretty good.
Hey, for AlphaTauri, that's nothing to be, especially when after Kvyat went out. And what even makes it worse for Red Bull too is we saw twice in this Grand Prix, despite 2 safety cars, there were 2 different points where the Mercedes were leading by more than 10 seconds. So, and it's one-way race, and I'm not a mess. Like, this is the first season, Alex. I mean, Daniel and I are really getting to F1. But if Mercedes can show up to the Red Bull ring and be that dominant, you can only imagine that the only other, sort of squad that's going to be up there is Red Bull. And Alex, you're right. Not getting any points out of this race could be a disaster for Red Bull. But I mean, Verstappen still is arguably one of the best drivers in the world right now.
I'm interested to see what happens next weekend at the same track.
Mm-hmm.
because I know Mercedes were having gearbox issues,
yes,
especially on the curbs, and how they deal with that. Because if they have issues again and Verstappen is racing, like the Red Bull car, yes, the Mercedes car is like far ahead of the Red Bull, but no offense to Alex Albon. Alex Albon is no Max Verstappen. No. And we saw it at the beginning of the race. Like Verstappen was pushing hard. And if his car, if there weren't issues with the hydraulics and then the brakes and whatever else was going on, I think that race would have been a lot more competitive for Bottas and Hamilton.
Mm-hmm. Well, guys, we'll continue to keep an eye out. We have another Grand Prix still in Hungary,
Austria.
Austria.
Hungary's after.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know why I said Hungary. Very different places. It's not. It's not the exact same course, or is it?
Yeah, they're doing the same thing in Britain at Silverstone.
Mm-hmm. All right, and we'll keep talking about that. One programming note we should probably mention here on the show. Until there is a time, probably when the playing round starts for the NHL, or unless there is a week where it is suitable to do this, we're going from 2 episodes a week down to 1 now. Again, if there is some sort of massive news, we'll gladly do an emergency podcast like we did with the Babcock firing. Yeah, but just for now, it's for the sake of the show. I think Bizarre Adventures, as laid back as they were, they kind of felt like nothing shows towards the end of it, and sometimes I was like, I don't really, no offense, guys, I didn't want to watch the Lego Movie. I don't think you guys really wanted to watch Nightmare Before Christmas, right?
We did it because we're your friend.
Yeah. So, and it was starting to cause a bit of issues with Daniel and I, going back and forth about Jurassic Park.
All I did was tag Daniel in one picture, and it's like the end of the world. I'm like, what did I do? Yeah. I felt so bad.
It was all love, don't worry.
It was. Guys, today is a special day. It is the return of the pop quiz.
Oh, okay, there it is. I thought you were gonna trick us 20 minutes in, but I guess we're gonna hear it now.
I texted you guys saying last night there might be a pop quiz, there might not be. So what I want both of you to do right now is, because we're not in person, it's a bit difficult. Go to Instagram and have your messenger to me, not the show, but to me on Instagram. By the way, ladies and gentlemen,
is it an F1 pop quiz?
It is a draft lottery / first overall quiz. Now, guys, while you guys are just getting set up, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I'll do it on my phone.
If you want to check out, you should check out all our social medias. I'm on Instagram as adam.floujeh. Alex is on Instagram as
Alex, HANIMY to the A to the N, okay?
And then Dan on the Dan Mike. Why
it's all down below. It's all down below.
Yeah. And by the way, you should also check out the YouTube channel for a visual experience of the podcast. Okay, guys, so do you both have your messenger ready to send to me, right, on Instagram?
Yeah.
Excuse me. That's how you'll be sending your answers, okay?
I figured.
Okay. And please don't cheat.
Okay.
I might cheat.
Don't be Ferrari all of last season with that engine. Okay, guys. Question number 1, and I'm going to give you 10 seconds to answer this, okay?
That's so short.
How many times, oh, by the way, all your answers, we're going to take away this year's draft because we don't know what's happening yet, okay?
Okay.
So that includes what we know so far about picks 2 through 8.
Oh, okay.
Just so you know, take out this draft for all your answers, okay? Question number 1. How many times since 2009 have the Edmonton Oilers selected first overall? Guys, as you know, while the lads are answering, the Edmonton Oilers might be the worst team to possibly win Alexis Lafreniere. Both of you instantly said 4, and you're both right.
Okay.
There was
McDavid, Taylor Hall, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Nail Yakupov.
Yes, exactly. They, if we look at the exact article I have here,
it should have been 5, to be honest.
Yeah. No, it doesn't.
Why? Because they got Leon Draisaitl?
Yeah, it feels like it.
In 2010, 11, 12, in succession, they drafted Taylor Hall, Brian Nugent-Hopkins, Nail Yakupov, and in 2015, Connor McDavid. You may have heard of that.
Yeah, you can't argue that they deserve this year's first overall pick. You can't
deserve 2012.
I legitimately tried to convince myself that was the case. Like because I was writing for my blog about the 3 teams that people would hate, and I was talking about the Edmonton Oilers. And I'm sitting there, I'm writing, okay, they won 3 first overall picks in a row. And then they won McDavid. And they've made the playoffs twice with the best player of his generation.
All right, let's move on with the
Get
top.
out of here. Edmonton.
By the way, later on in the show, ladies and gentlemen, what we'll be doing is Alex had a great idea. We're going to be looking at each Canadian team and doing a deep dive on how the flat cap for the next few years is going to affect them. But anyway, you're both up 1-1 right now. Congratulations, guys.
Get out of here, Daniel.
Question number 2. What is the record for most spots moved up to select first overall? So that means how many spots or the most amount of spots a team has moved up in the lottery to select first overall. And Daniel has already messaged me back. Jesus Christ, Daniel, that was quite quick.
I can't remember. I might be wrong, though.
I'm just throwing a number. I think it's got to be high. I know it's a high number.
Wait, Daniel, what did you say? Did you just throw it out there?
Oh, I just threw it out there. I said 8.
Okay, so it's funny you say that. So the answer is actually 5.
Oh, okay.
But the record for moving up in the lottery, according to this article I'm looking at, the Devils moved up 8 spots.
Oh, that's what I was remembering for Adam Larson, yeah.
2011, but there was a rule where you can only move up 4 spots or something. By the way, why is that not a thing right now? Also, the Blackhawks moved up 8 spots in the 1999 draft.
I put 12.
Yeah, Alex said 12.
I don't know.
But I think it would be, you might be right if Winnipeg had actually been a team right now instead of the play-in, because I think they were 13th.
I thought, for some reason, I'm thinking about that draft where so New Jersey, Philly, and Dallas. And I remember Philly and Dallas were relatively they were close to the playoffs, and they moved up a lot. And I don't know why I picked 12.
Philly was, I believe, 15th. So they were the best team to miss the playoffs that year. I remember I was very upset that draft. Yeah, they moved up second to select Nolan Patrick. Question number 3, you're both tied 1-1. Since 2010, guys, how many defensemen have been selected first overall? And if you can name them also, I'll give you an extra point.
So there's more than one. Is there more than one?
I can't say that.
I don't. Yeah, there is.
There is? All right. Well, Alex, hopefully you can get your answer in 10, 9.
I'm writing it out. Wait.
7, 6,
yeah.
5, 4. Congratulations. Both of you are correct. It's been 2. Of course, we had Rasmus Dahlin and Aaron Ekblad, respectfully. I'm just going to get the exact dates up for accuracy. Aaron Ekblad in 2014, Rasmus Dahlin in 2018. So congratulations. You both have 4 points. I'm realizing I may have made this a bit too easy. Okay, this is one I really, really loved because I never knew this. Question number 4. The Washington Capitals, of course, moved up from 3rd to 1st in 2004 to select Alexander Ovechkin.
Yep.
But which team originally had the number 1 seed in that draft? This is fascinating trivia for me. So please try and get it. Daniel has the answer.
I'm probably wrong. I don't know.
2004.
8.
Okay, I'm just going to throw a team out there again. I don't know. I'm just thinking who is bad.
If you want, Daniel sent me his answers. Okay, so
I just
Alex,
picked one.
You have said Atlanta. Daniel has said Pittsburgh. And Daniel is right. It was the Pittsburgh Penguins. The year before they drafted Sidney Crosby originally had the best shot at Alexander Ovechkin. Oh, could you imagine how mad they were during 2004? And then they got rewarded in 2005 with arguably one of the best players of all time. I thought that was very fascinating. How about you guys? So, Daniel,
was
I close? Was I at least close, or was Atlanta semi-good?
I don't know exactly where Atlanta were there. But
what year was it? We're going to search this up. 2004.
Oh, they took Boris Valubic, I believe. And then they traded him and Rich Peverly to the Bruins for Blake Wheeler and Mark Stewart. I remember that.
All right, close everything right now. Okay, I guess this is one more question.
I was close.
Okay, the 1999 draft is famous for then GM the Vancouver Canucks then GM Brian Burke wheeling and dealing his way to select the Sedin twins second and third overall. However, Patrick Stefan was first overall. Who drafted him? Patrick Stefan, whose most famous clip of his career was missing an empty netter. Daniel has sent me his answer.
I genuinely don't know if this is right, but we're going with it.
Okay. Alex, you have said Dallas. Daniel, you have said Atlanta.
Is it Atlanta?
It is.
I thought he traded with Atlanta.
He was drafted by Atlanta, and then he ended up in Dallas.
I thought
where he scored that famous garbage goal.
I thought Burke. Whatever. I'm wrong. Whatever. I thought Burke traded with Atlanta to get one of those picks.
Wasn't it the Lightning pick? It was like second, and then it went like Atlanta. I mean,
you're right.
Tampa traded down. Yeah.
Yeah, it was Tampa, and I think he made another trade with Chicago.
It's a whole thing.
Damn it.
But congratulations, Daniel. You have won by a score of 6-5. How do you feel?
Feel good. It was pretty good close. You got pucks deep. Got the bounces tonight.
Yeah. Well, would you like to dedicate this win to someone special?
Yes.
To who?
To Alex Albon.
No. I was hoping you'd say that.
Yes. He has a few more races left in him. He keeps winning your heart, man. Like, he drives a Honda Civic Type R as his daily driving car in England. You got to love it.
All right. Okay, guys. My first note here is the Austrian Grand Prix. We can talk about it again. Anyway, guys. First of all, a very heartwarming thing to start the show with. A huge congratulations to Oscar Klefbom, forward for the Philadelphia Flyers. He's finished his.
Sorry, you said Oscar Klef. It's Oscar Lindblom.
Lindblom. Sorry.
No problem.
I'm embarrassed. But seriously, Oscar Lindblom. Lindblom.
Yes.
The notes do say Lindblom. I promise you. I just
okay. No problem.
I feel bad. I don't want to mess with that because seriously, I'm so happy. There's a certain phrase I used to say on the podcast, but now since we're on voice ed, I can't really say it because I swear. It's not November. But there's a descriptive word I'd like to say to cancer. But I'll just say it sucks, and I don't know about you guys, but I'm so happy. It's such a great story.
We are.
And I think even his wife said, "My man's cancer free," and it's so. That's
awesome.
I thought it was great when, despite the treatments, he still came for the team photo.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know to think was a big part of that Flyers team's rally towards the end of the season was for him. And we saw the Rangers in 2014. Marty St. Louis was not being stopped in that playoff run, to my happy chagrin. And that was the same year he had lost his mother, and it felt like the Rangers really rallied around her, ultimately falling short against the Kings. But you wonder if this just gives the Flyers a bit more oomph when it comes to the playoffs, because they're a good team. They've got goaltending. They've got some good scoring. But guys, we're going to talk a bit about next season. Per Pierre LeBrun, the NHL are still going for an 82-game regular season for the 2021 season. Starting with you, I'll start with Daniel on here, right? Because I already know what Alex is going to say. But Daniel, let me ask you this. Let's say the play-in happens as it should be. We have a deep playoff run, and then let's say it goes till October, and then end of December, beginning of January, we come and have an 82-game season. What strain is that going to have on a player's body?
A lot. I don't know. To really condense that, it seems like a baseball schedule, but, a lot more intensity. I don't know how they're really going to manage it, especially because I think we think about what they're doing now, expanded rosters. That's something to put into consideration. But how is that going to look if you condense the schedule? You're going to carry 4 goalies with you and use them like pitchers.
You're not going to have the All-Star game. You're not going to have the bye week. That's for sure.
Yeah, they can't afford to have any of that. A lot more back-to-backs.
Yeah. It's going to look a lot like, they condensed soccer, right? So usually you're playing 1 game a week, and then if you're playing in the middle of the week, it could be a cup game, it could be Champions League, et cetera, et cetera. So I think we're going to see a lot more condensed where there's going to be a lot more back-to-backs, And I don't really know if you're going to get a whole lot of days off.
I always thought this thing, because they've done it in the NBA, for, Kawhi Leonard load management.
Yeah.
I always thought, like, would the NHL ever do that where, you watch a team and their star player's not there?
And I can tell you exactly why. Because they're too macho.
Yeah.
Too manly.
They should have been doing, like, there's no reason Patrick Marleau should play an 82-game season. There's zero reason. There's zero reason that if, let's say Justin Williams signed and he at the beginning of October, there was no reason that he was playing 82 games.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Someone like Jason Spezza, no reason he should play an 82-game schedule. Or 82 game. Like, he shouldn't play 82 games in a season.
That's a funny thing. Sorry, I just thought of The Last Dance. The same thing Michael Jordan kind of said, where they're like, this guy, even in preseason games, like, like those celebration games, like when you travel through Europe, this guy still went hard like it was the NBA Finals, because he's like, there's kids in the crowds that, they might not. This might be the only time they get to see Michael Jordan play. So I'm gonna go in no matter what.
I think it's a really back and forth type conversation, because you make a good point, right? Like, if I'm a Leafs fan and I go watch, and I'm spending $200 per ticket to sit in the 300s. Yeah, like I do want to see Austin Matthews. I do want to see John Tavares play, right? So I think there's an issue, right? And I think that was something they talked about a lot about the NBA.
Yeah.
With Kawhi, especially this year, and I know it was talked about last year, saying like, listen, man, like, tickets aren't cheap.
No.
Right? Especially here. It doesn't matter. I mean, they're not as expensive, but even MLS tickets are increasing in price year after year after year. And then you look at the science and says, okay, like, there's certain players, do they really have to play every single game? Like, do they have to play both games of a back-to-back? Maybe not.
Well,
but
a
quickly,
big point that you talked about was hockey culture.
Yeah, but before we move on, just like my issue with the 82 games, it's not necessarily it's not this year and next year, the timing between it, right? Because it's supposed to end in October. Then there's going to be the draft, there's going to be free agency, and they're going to start in January. So I don't know if that's my issue. I think my issue is next year and the year after, because they're talking about going to the Winter Olympics in 2022. And in my opinion, I think both the players and the league are not I think they're going to regret doing that, because the players are going to be literally exhausted. So you're going to start in January, and when are you going to end? In July or August? And then what? You're going to start when? You're going to start in October or November?
Well, there has been talk that I think for another day, that they want to maybe change the season, like, because the MLB and sorry, not the MLB, but like NHL and NBA don't like going against the NFL during certain times. But like, I get it. Yeah, there's so many logistical things there. Well, you just wonder, like, also, like, I always have this thought with hockey that, man, if you have all this free agency stuff in the late parts of the year, like fall, winter time here, man, families are going to get so screwed having to move at the beginning of a year or beginning of a school year, right? But hey, players. Talk about free agents. Alex Pietrangelo is a big free agent, right, guys? He'll be one we keep talking about. He's, of course, the captain of the St. Louis Blues. They had to cancel practices because they had 3 players and a coach test positive for COVID-19. And there was a report from the Scores where I first saw it.
Yeah.
That apparently they were out at a bar.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you want to go, or do you want me to go?
I'm not gonna do the whole thing. Like, I'm not gonna do it. I'm just gonna say, this is all I'll say. idiots, like especially like normal person, like going out having the mask and that. I get it, but like when you're an NHL player, like I'm obviously going to be more critical, but I think like I made my points well enough last episode, and that I'm just saying like all I'll say is make better decisions.
You know what the issue I have, like, you know what? I'm a human. I understand you have urges to go out. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I have not left my house in 3.5 months. I can't tell you that because then I'd be a liar. But when you know you're starting training camp and you need to go into a bubble, you're telling me the smart choice was to go to a bar? Like the same thing goes with Jake Virtanen. I don't know if you saw the video of Jake Virtanen.
No. What happened?
At a club or whatever. I don't know where he lives. If you know you're going to do this, then no. Like, then you don't go. Right? Because you know that you're potentially jeopardizing the season. If you got it by going to a grocery store with your mask on and I needed to go get groceries, that's one thing, right? Like people need to go get food. But to go to a bar or go to a club inside, especially inside, like I don't have sympathy for that, right?
Daniel, what do you think? Because last week I was re-listening to the episode from last week. Alex and I, we definitely we had a very passionate discussion. So what do you make of a little setback for the Blues? And how much worse does it make it? Sorry to interrupt. And how much worse does it make it that this report about them being, spending some time at a bar make this look?
I don't know. It's what we talked about before. It's like it's so irresponsible. It's kind of things where there's so many measures that are being in place that I don't know. This comes from like unnecessary privilege in a way. Just that they think they're immune to this. That it's like a kind of thing where they only see what's around them, not the repercussions of what's going to happen once they enter that bubble.
Mm-hmm.
That
what
you bring in, no problem. That it's just something where it's like yeah, you're a hockey player, an athlete, but take your job seriously, and don't be an idiot and go to a bar.
Mm-hmm.
You know who I have to shout out? Formula One, who tested over 4,000 people and had zero. Zero. Yeah. If I'm the NHL, if I'm the NBA, I'm calling whoever the hell runs Formula One and says, hey, so what are you putting in place because you're traveling Europe?
See, that's
very true. Measures in Europe as well compared to the U.S.
We're talking about 750 people in one city. There are 4,000 people, media, drivers, staff, literally everyone traveling from Austria. And in 2 weeks, they're going to go to Hungary. And then they're going to go to Britain. And then I think they're going to Belgium.
That's yeah. I mean, before they started the race day, and you see everyone, there on the track getting ready. I was thinking, like, man, that is very scary. But you hear about the FIA. I believe he was the FIA president doing an interview with someone from Sky, and he was talking about, I got tested before I do this interview. I'm going to be tested afterwards, and knowing that they had that good of test results is, I love Europe. Just wanted to put that out there. But a big thing around the world, especially here in North America, has been people trying to make change for the better, and it looks like we're definitely getting that. There have been some sports franchises that are having some discussions when it comes to name changes. First of all, the NFL's Washington team. I'm not going to name any. I'm not going to say the name of any of these teams, by the way. Just fair warning. So the NFL's Washington team, who has been under pressure for a very long time to change their name, are reviewing a name change. The same with the MLB's Cleveland team. And there was the CFL's Edmonton team were also doing it, but they had some sort of
they were actually doing something.
An engagement program where they talked to leaders of like the Yellowknife, Equally. I know I'm not going to say all,
I can pull it up.
You can't. Yeah, so they've actually. We'll talk about the Edmonton in a second, though. But what do you guys make, starting with you, Daniel, that it looks like Cleveland and especially Washington are finally changing their names, or at least but saying that there is a review pretty much means they're going to change it.
Yeah, I hear like there's been rumblings about this the last few years, but now there's been like more concrete, again, actions to try to, really kind of tackle this, kind of show like, on the owner side, okay, this is what we're willing to do. And I know we've talked about it so many times here on the show, but it just, puts another kind of, I guess, spotlight and go like, all right, NHL, Chicago, what are you guys going to think about this?
So what actually is the story with the Blackhawks one? Because I thought it was after like an army regiment type thing.
Well, the logo would not tell you that.
Okay. Just
right? I believe you, right? Like that could be the story, but then don't have the logo like that, right?
Hands in the air. That was a very fair point. It's again, and I'm not defending the Blackhawks at all here. It's not as bad as Cleveland's, and at the same time, it's pretty bad. It looks a lot more similar to Washington's, which is
Cleveland. I remember they said they were not going to use the I forgot the mascot's name anymore.
Didn't they get rid of their logo on their jerseys and they changed their logo? Did they?
Yeah, it's just like the C now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But still have the name itself, which is Man, and if there's a group of people that's going to know a lot about that kind of stuff, I think it would be Ryerson students like us who, like, say what you want. Like, Ryerson needs to change their name and take down the Egerton Ryerson statue. Like, everyone is very strong about that. But Ryerson the journalism program in first year and second year have made a very strong effort to tell us about Indigenous peoples and, like, just how much we really screwed them.
I think we've learned a lot about how to cover Indigenous nations. I don't know if we've learned about, like, I think we've learned the stuff that history wise I talked about in school, right? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's like I agree that we've learned about how to cover it. I don't know if they've taught us anything extra.
Well, we did have the committee. It was, I forget, some of them were professors. They came in first year and they told us.
Oh, it was our first story day, right?
I think it was, and they gave us a lot of background about that stuff.
Just CP era on that.
Come on, Daniel.
Primary focus that, yes, but at the same time, I think like they did make an effort to try and give us some background. Also, I think, sorry, I should have mentioned this. That also, like, I've taken a bunch of, I'm doing an English minor, right? And, like, through there, like, I've read stuff like Indian Horse and that, which gives you, like, stuff about residential schools and that. So, but, like, Ryerson as a whole.
Yeah.
It's hard to give them credit because it's like change your damn name, but, like, professors have tried.
Yeah, I think I took, it was called History of Toronto. Or Geography of Toronto, not History. Geography of Toronto. And the prof is really, like, we had multiple lectures talking about the history of Toronto.
Where does the name Toronto come from? I know I should know that.
Daniel, why would you ask me that question?
I'm sorry.
Don't. I mean, listen, man, I could find my notes, and you give me.
Okay.
Adam can keep going. I'll find my notes.
Lecture 1. What is Toronto?
Yeah. What? Why don't we pronounce the second T? That's what I want to know.
Oh, Toronto.
Even if I make an effort, I sometimes it's like, no, Toronto sounds dumb. Toronto.
So this is random, but I remember it from what's that movie with
Jurassic Park.
Ben Affleck in it?
The Accountant.
No, he's the director. It's losing me right now. It's during the
Batman.
Not Batman. It's when he has to get American NBC workers out of Iran.
Oh my God! It's the one about I watched this in English class. It was about there's the group of Canadians, right, who are part of it.
And then
Fargo.
Yes, sorry. I just remember one part in it where they have to tell the American people, like, you have to say you're Canadian, and like, okay, where are you from? I'm from Toronto. It's like, no, you don't say the last T, or they're gonna know.
Yeah.
They're not from Toronto.
It's like Detroit and Detroit. That's it's just like one of those.
How do you say it? Detroit or Detroit?
I say Detroit.
Detroit.
I have a friend that says Detroit.
And they're dumb.
Then they're wrong.
Whoa.
They're just wrong. They're
Place
just wrong.
The dirty water. I have been drinking lead-filled water for ever now. Guys, do we want to go into the deep dive now?
Let's do it.
Okay.
All right, guys. So, as we teased earlier in the show, we are going to go through each Canadian team, and we are going to look at their cap space, look at how much they have, some future contracts that may have to sign, and how this flat cap is overall going to affect these teams. We're going to start with the teams the lowest cap it and make our way up, starting with the Ottawa Senators, who currently have $7 million in cap space. But these are some UFAs that they're going to have. They're going to have $4 million from Mikhail Bodker, $3.5 from Ron Hainsey.
Yeah.
4.7 from Craig Anderson, and a combined 10.45 from Ryan Callahan and Clark MacArthur. And they will have Marian Hossa on LTIR.
Thank God. So in total, they'll have $39 million in cap space going into next season.
They're going to use it to re-sign Mikhail Bodker.
I mean, you know, I think I look at there's three guys who really pop out to me going into next year. And that's Tierney, Brown, and Duclair. And what do you do with those guys?
I mean, I think Tierney – sorry, it was Tierney, Brown, and who?
Duclair.
Well, I think you try and keep Duclair. Like,
I think you try to keep all – like at least Brown and Duclair.
I think give them like reasonable offers, I think. Like these guys that, you know, they kind of fit the culture really well. See where they could be placed somewhere around the top 9 for now. But if they try to just cash it in, just let them walk.
I think like if I had to choose one of them to let go, it would probably be Chris Tierney. I get it. You know, I just look at Duclair and I think, man, that's a guy who he's found success here. Why not keep him? And then Connor Brown's a guy who's been around. It gets weird because he's not the oldest guy, but you know he was with Toronto for their rebuild, and at the start of them really turning into you know, a competitive team.
Yeah.
Say what you want about them, but like they are one of the better teams in the league, and he was part of that. And I just think I really like downtown Connor Brown. I really do.
And you look at what Ottawa has in the center on their center depth. Sorry, you know, you look at you look at a guy like, you know, Josh Norris, who played a few games with the Senators. They have Logan Brown. Who am I missing here? Drake Batherson, Philip Chlapik, Colin White, who's played in the NHL. And then you look at, oh man, they got the 3rd overall pick this year. And that's probably going to be one of Byfield or Tim Stützle. Sorry. Right? So that's another center right there. And, you know, what is Chris Tierney? Like, what's his ceiling? You know, he's 20. He's 26 right now. Like, he's probably your third line center. But would you rather pay him, or would you rather collect some LTIR and play your young guys? Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Same thing. I really thought, you know, when Dylan DeMello got dealt to Winnipeg, I thought Chris Tierney was on his way out as well. Like, so it was kind of a bit of a surprise to me that, you know, like the Sens weren't just gonna like unload this guy for another asset.
I think they could at the deadline. I'm not the deadline, at the draft, whenever that may be. You know, he's an RFA. Yeah, he's arbitration eligible, but there's teams who could use a middle 6 center.
People love adding depth and warm bodies at the deadline.
Yeah, and I think unless you guys have more to say about their next year, 2020 and 2021, you know, their defense, okay, got to re-sign Ron Hainsey, Mark Borowiecki. I don't know if you necessarily bring back Mark Borowiecki. I don't know if you bring back Ron Hainsey, but I do think you bring back Mark Borowiecki.
You're your captain.
Yeah. You look at, you know, they got Eric Brandstrom, Christian Jaros, Maxime Lajoie. These are all guys who can step into the NHL. Like, I don't think Ottawa is going to be this great team next year. I think we're at least giving it a few years. You look at Lassie Thompson. Plus, you know, who are they going to take at that 5th overall pick? You have Jamie Drysdale available. You look at Jake Sanderson. What are you doing there? I think That's another question. But I think, you don't really have to bring back Ron Hainsey, but I do think Mark Borowiecki, and then you can fill in those guys with some of your younger defensemen.
They're also going to have a lot. Take on. You can bring a bad contract into the draft. They're going to have enough space. They could probably do it during the year, trade deadline.
Yeah.
But then I also wonder how many of those deals are they going to bring in, depending on the salary itself of Eugene. But let's just say perfect scenario, which never really is around the Sens. But they really do have the room where they can really flex their cap muscles here, and not just for this year. They could probably do it next year too, because they're not going to be. They might be a fun team, but I don't see them being a competitive force over there.
And I wonder what they do with their goaltending situation. Craig Anderson's up, obviously at the end of whenever the end of this season is, and in the minors you got Joey Daccord, Philip Gustafson, and you have Anders Nielsen signed for this year and next year, and Marcus Högberg. So you're moving forward with Högberg and Nielsen. Is that Ottawa's plan?
Just let them play until you find other opportunities along the way, I think.
Yeah, because it seemed like they liked Högberg, and we haven't heard much else. I don't know. You really think if Craig Anderson doesn't re-sign in Ottawa, I really think that might be it for Anderson.
He takes on an advisory role or something with management.
Yeah, until he gets sick of Eugene and leaves. But, the Sens, always a team. They've got some potential there. They've got great young guys. They've got cap space. You can do a lot there.
And even the year after, right?
Yeah.
Anisimov, that's another guy. Okay, maybe you re-sign him. Maybe you trade him. I don't know what their intentions are. But that's a guy they don't have a first line center yet. I think what the guy they take at the draft this year could potentially be that guy. But they need someone to fill that spot. Anisimov isn't a first line center, but you're not going to go out there and get a proper first line center. Right. And then Brady Tkachuk is the big one. I think. What do you do with Brady Tkachuk?
If you try and sign him, Chabot stayed. That's a big thing for them.
Yeah, the fact that you sign Chabot and you have Colin White signed long term, I think, are really good moving forward.
Shall we move on from the Sens though?
Sure.
Okay.
We don't.
All right, next we have Leskana Montreal. Right now they have $4.5 million in cap space. But by the end of the year, Dale Weiss 2.3 will be gone, and a combination of 3.36 mil from Marco Scandella, Ilya Kovalchuk, and do you remember Steve Mason's buyout is out this year?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, which we all forget about, but that's how they got Yellow Armia. Looking at the Habs, it's right now the priority is Max Domi. Victor Mete right now is not going to get anything special. He's not. If there's a comparable to a deal he might get, I'm going to say Travis Dermott, really. But looking at generally when they have cap space. I don't know if they're going to do it, but the big question I see contract-wise for the Habs is next year is a very big question mark because you have Brendan Gallagher, who I've been very on the record, you have to keep him.
Yeah.
And Philip Deneau, who is coming off a sweetheart deal, making $3 million. Then you also have Artturi Lehkonen, won't be that much. Jordan Wheel, I would be amazed if he's back. He has another year on this deal, but then you have the questions of Jeff Petrie and Thomas Tatar. Now, whether they can keep those guys, I'm not that concerned about because by then you're going to have Montreal are a team that you should have young guys coming in. And besides, Jeff Petrie, he's already 32, so by the end of this, he'll be 33, 34. Do you really want to, if you bring him back? And also, we should probably, for the record, talking about any sort of contracts going forward, it's very difficult to talk about what the market's going to look like, but I mean, they have the room, so they're going to have about 10 mil to try and bring in back Gallagher and Danault, and looking like, I mean, what does Danault get, right? I'm thinking like at least between 4 and 5, and I think he's worth that.
You don't think he pushes for more? Like the fact that this year like a lot of people were saying, okay, this guy's getting Selke votes, and he's how old? He's 27. Like he's in his prime, right? And you think next year he takes another step. You don't think it gets more than $5 million?
No, because offensively, I don't think Phil Danault is going to take another step. I mean, like 40, 50 points, I think, is the best the guy's going to do. I mean, yeah, he's a great two-way forward, but he's not a Sean Couturier when it comes to, like, he doesn't have the ability to score 30 goals.
Right.
The reason I say between 4 and 5 is because I'm thinking the Pajot kind of comparison here. Okay. But Danault's not the best finisher in the world. The guy has had some pretty gnarly goalless droughts over the past few years with the Canadiens. I don't think they're in a terrible position for the next 3 years, especially. But it's just I start wondering about after that, because eventually the Price deal is going to catch up with you. But like looking at the next 3 years, I don't think it's a problem, especially because you still have young guys like Nick Suzuki, for example.
Yeah, some is entry level.
Yeah, his contract won't be due to 2023, so you should be. And again, by then you're going to have possibly Petry's deal off the books. By then you will finally have Carl Osner out the way.
Oh yeah,
which I forgot about.
Yeah.
Until I just saw him and how he existed. By then Kulak will be gone. Chirot. The one thing when I'm sorry, I'm talking a whole lot here. I'm just realizing is that
excited by your team.
I'm realizing by the time all this ends, a lot of Montreal's guys won't be around. Like, half their defensemen have 2 years left after this. A lot of forwards, and the guys who have the most term, Paul Byron, Jonathan Drouin, and then Price and Weber, your most important guys.
Yeah. The name that interests me the most, because he had such a good rookie, he had a good rookie year, and then his sophomore year was so on and off, is Kotkaniemi. Like, what do you do with Kotkaniemi in terms of, okay, takes a bridge deal, or do you sign him long term, thinking the amount of steps that he can take?
I say bridge deal. I still think I know Adam has a lot more info on this, but I still think he's in a kind of prove it situation, like prove me wrong. Yeah. Not a Kevin LeBanc situation per se, but it's like, I don't know. It's like a Kucherov, Subban type of like kind of thing, where it's like, it's a high end guy that he has the potential, but prove it to me first.
Yeah, I think. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Alex.
No, I was just gonna say I think all these things start to add up. Like, I didn't hear you cut out for me for a sec, so I don't know if what you said about Thomas Tatar in terms of re-signing him or not re-signing him, but that's like 4.8, and if he has another season like he did this year, he's going to get a raise. The same goes, like, Brendan Gallagher's going to get a raise no matter what. Mm-hmm. Max Domi's going to get a raise. Phil Danault's going to get a raise. And then, Lehkonen, I don't know what you do with Lehkonen, probably somewhere around the same.
Yeah, around there.
Right, so it just feels like all these things are adding up. Then you have to do Nick Suzuki. Then you have to do Kotkaniemi, and then I feel like it's just going to add up.
Well, I think regardless, Kotkaniemi is going to get, like, I'm agreeing with you, Daniel. He's getting a bridge deal. Because even if he comes out and has a fantastic year, there's just been too many ups and downs, right?
For sure.
They're gonna say, do it again.
And again, my big thing is, does it add up? Yes, but I don't think they're in a terrible position because of what money will be on. Sorry. Yeah, sorry.
For sure.
So I didn't know for sure if you were saying the Habs are screwed or not.
No, I'm not saying that.
No, I just have like one question. I think it's just when it comes to the money and you think of like term, like how comfortable are you with this core?
That's a really good question. I am the big question is I don't know what the core will look like by the end. I look at Montreal and I don't actually know is Tatar or Petry quote unquote part of the core, because I think in 2-3 years this team is going to look very different. You hope that Romanov will be part of the core. You hope that I think Jonathan Drouin is part of it. I'm going to tell you Brendan Gallagher is part of it. Max Domi, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I wouldn't be surprised if Max Domi's not Hab in the next 2 years. There's just been so many, little whispers. There was one saying, apparently he hates it. I don't believe that. Like, just gotta, like, he doesn't like this, like the spotlight and the pressure. Like, shut up. But like, I don't mean to keep like kind of sidestepping your questions here, guys. It's just I don't really. The only guys who are for sure a part of the core, in my opinion, are Weber, Price, Drouin, and Gallagher, and Deneau. Sorry, and Suzuki, but he's kind of young, so I don't really count him. So with those key guys, I love it. Oh. But from there, and Caulfield, yeah. Again, he's still in the NCAA, so I don't really like to count him there. But then you think, like, man, but who's going to replace Petrie in 2 years? I do wonder that. Can Victor Mete take an offensive step, which he scored a goal this year? He scored a few, right?
Yeah.
Patience.
And you just hope that the rest of the young guys can come in. I think Nick Suzuki is going to be a star without a question. If you talk to any Montreal reporter or anyone who's watched him play, he's going to be nasty. He's going to be yucky, as Mike would say.
I kind of agree to what you kind of said about Max Domi. I think that was something I was considering when we're looking at the cap situation. That how comfortable do you feel with him being part of that core moving forward, or whether or not you kind of move on from it?
I like Max. It's just you wonder. Think of it like this: Nick Suzuki was doing really well as a rookie centerman in the top 6 row, right? And the chemistry you have with a guy like Tomas Starks Wicked. Let me ask you guys this. Who would you rather have as your second-line center right now, Philip Deneau or Max Domi? Because I'm leaning towards Philip Deneau.
I think because he has the ability to be that shut-down defenseman. I'm not defenseman, shut-down centerman, and be that line that you throw out against for a team's offensive juggernaut. I think I'd take Philip Deneau.
Daniel.
Yeah, so I had this funny comparison. So with Philip Deneau, you really know what you're getting with him when you put him in the lineup as you're in the top 6 center. I know he's not the most offensive guy all the time, but he reminds me of is what everyone thought Brandon Sutter was from 2007 into 2014.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. And the reason I ask that is because I think Nick Suzuki, I think you're going to take him over Max. And then you have Phil Deneau. A young guy like Jake Evans is best case. He's a third line center. But then you have Jesperi Kotkaniemi there as well. And it just sometimes feels like to me that Max Domi is sometimes the odd one out. So
I didn't even mention Ryan Poehling.
Yeah, I purposely didn't mention Ryan Poehling. He's very forgettable.
You're over Ryan Poehling?
Yeah.
One game wonder?
Yeah. Hey, I'll always remember that first game since I was at it. But hey, the Habs, they're going to be interesting. I always say that. I never quite know what Marc Bergevin's going to pull out.
Yeah.
I think he could probably take luckily they're still at a point where if you wanted this year to take on a bad deal, I think you can still do it for assets, but then again, it's just Montreal use it. And again, what's the joke? Marc Bergevin has been hoarding cap room for 8 years. I say now we move on. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think what I was saying before was that I think a lot depends on the type of deals Bergevin sheds out, because there's all these guys who are going to get raises, right? And what type of raises they get is dependent on the contract that Marc Bergevin gives them. So right now they're in a great position, but if Marc Bergevin makes a string of wrong moves, they could be put in a tough position, especially considering, like you said before, the Carey Price and Shea Weber deal. One wrong injury to Shea Weber, one wrong injury to Carey Price completely changes everything.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Hey, one of the products of – you talk about controversial GMs. The guy in Chicago, good old Stan Bowman, yeah. Marc Bergevin was a product of that. And another product of that GM system in in Chicago with Kevin Cheveldayoff of the Winnipeg Jets right now. They have $3.72 million in cap space.
Yeah.
There is 4.3 and 3.8 respectively for Dmitry Kulikov and Cody Eakin, who I did not know was a Jet, by the way. But the big question for me is, in a few years, Patrick Laine's bridge will be done. And he has kind of turned his play around, in my opinion. And even if Kulikov comes off your books, you need to put that money right back in your defense.
Yeah, I'm looking at the cap friendly page I have up here. So next season they'd have $15.5 million, and the year after they'd have 36.
Mm-hmm.
And I think next year, I'm looking at obviously they're cap friendly. Cody Eakin's coming off the books. They got re-signed Jack Roslovic, and then they have these string of UFAs, or plus Mason Appleton, sorry, and they have these string of UFAs, and okay, Nick Shore, two-way deal, it's whatever he got this year, kind of. Logan Shaw, Mark Letestu, Gabriel Bourque, right, and then you're really gonna bring back those guys? I think they could be AHL guys for you. You got a couple guys in Manitoba who could potentially come up for you. Looking at some Christian Vesalainen or David Gustafson.
Mm-hmm.
Until today, I did not realize how bad some of their contracts are.
Man, I know people like Blake Wheeler. That deal is a mess. There's another one.
I know he's on the IR, but that Brian Little contract.
That was it. Yeah, Brian Little is getting paid he's got that Jimmy Hayes deal. Man, that's
Kevin
not quite
Hayes.
good enough. Kevin Hayes. Who did I say?
Jimmy.
Oh,
brother of Kevin.
They're both kind of overrated. Let's be honest. I said it. It's really just they have their forwards for by the way, that Scheifele deal is.
Yeah. Or Matthew Perreault getting over $4 million.
That's
2 more
another
years.
brutal one. And I keep thinking if they need to shed space additionally, that they're going to make a mistake in trading Nick Ehlers and he's going to explode. And I get terrified thinking about it. Also helps that Hellebuck's deal is pretty we have some up and down goalie deals in the league, but Connor Hellebuck's, it's sexy. It
looks like a steal
That's
for
nice.
now. Yeah.
The cap, even if you say what you want about the term, it'll be about 32, 33. That's right at the end of it for goalies. Some of them get pretty pecorine, especially start going up and down by the time they're that age. That is just a capital S sexy deal. 6.166, 6666. I was hoping we could say more about the Jets, but it is simple as you recycle that money back into your defense because you seriously. All they need is another stable defenseman they can get in.
I know they're lacking, but I still love the Dylan. I know he's a rental, but I love the Dylan DeMello deal for what he does, and it's under $1 million.
Man, Paul Maurice is going to be campaigning hard to get him back. You know that for a fact. Hey, sometimes I always think, sorry to go back to Montreal, but Ben Sherratt's a player that, and he was like this in Winnipeg, that he's not the flashiest name, but the guy can log minutes. And Dylan DeMello is another guy who can do that for Winnipeg, and I think that's all Paul Maurice really, really wants. Because hey,
they're good minute munchers.
Yeah, just get the minute munch. That's a great term. The minute muncher DeMello. All right, this is when we start getting into if the Jets situation wasn't even worse. We kind of have a repeat here. The Calgary Flames have just under $1 million in cap space. $1 million, sorry. And the big story when I look at the Flames is really that they have a bunch of money coming off the book on their back end, but it is it's a back end you need to then fill back in. Now, of course, you have Hanifin, you have Giordano, and Rasmus Anderson. Beside that, you have Brody, Hamonic, Forbert, Gustafson, who are all going to be gone. What do you guys think looking at the Jets? The Flames in their situation.
I don't think. Unless they really like one of I don't think they bring back Forbort. Maybe they try getting Eric Gustafson, bringing him back, and then letting Brody or Hamonic walk. But I think at the end of the day, they bring back one of. I think they end up bringing TJ Brody back, and Travis Hamonic ends up walking because I think there's a lot of a lot of teams who would really like a Travis Hamonic.
Yeah. I think prioritize one or the other. Like after this year, like your right side is Rasmus Anderson, and then it's non-existent. They have a lot of like left-hand options already, but I think at that point, I agree with Alex. You gotta pick by that point. And I know Travis Hamonic has been great, but like this is not New York Islander Travis Hamonic.
Yeah.
No.
I thought he was gonna explode or like at least become like a lot more consistent or a lot more solid with Calgary.
Like I'm looking at their left side, and right now Giordano, Noah Hanifin, and Oliver Shillington. I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. I mean, I know they've been talking about Hanifin, and I know it was a small discussion at the deadline. If they're going to trade part of their core or what they're considering their core, I don't think it's going to be a defenseman. I think it's going to be a forward. So I think, bringing back TJ Brody plus having Rasmus Anderson, your top four is pretty secure.
Yeah.
You're looking to fill in that sixth spot as a right-handed defenseman on your third pairing.
The one thing I look at Calgary and I think, man, the money that they could use to help the back end if they didn't have Milan Lucic's deal would be amazing. Because Gaudreau, say what you want, guy scored 99 points before. Makes 6.7, less than Evander Kane. That's pretty yucky. Again, Tkachuk only makes $7 million. That's pretty yucky. God, Mike just has me saying yucky.
I know. I'm like, oh, when did that start?
Yeah. So man, the Flames, just get it together. I'm not like a huge proponent of trade one of your big guys, especially because I keep hearing in Toronto, son, get rid of Nylander. And like I think when I start hearing that people are telling the Flames get rid of Gaudreau, I'm like, yeah, but no. And it's the same people saying no, keep the big four in Toronto. Like, yeah, you got to keep your offensive dudes here. Like Calgary, like don't. I would love Johnny Gaudreau in Montreal. Don't trade Johnny Gaudreau, please.
Sorry, Daniel. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I just thought the way everything's kind of structured with their forward contracts, like there's enough leeway there for them to kind of justify that underachieving like streak they kind of had.
Yeah, like Gaudreau. I don't know about that. I
like here, like when you compare it to like what other teams consider their top guys and how much they're being paid.
Yeah, but Gaudreau's done 99 points.
And but the playoffs, that's the issue. Yeah. It's great. I think the issue for Calgary is that yes, it's similar to Toronto, I guess. I don't know, but their prime has seemed to last a little bit longer than what it's been like in Toronto, where the last few years.
Prime or window?
Window. Their window started before Toronto's.
Okay, I was about to say because Gaudreau's only 26. Like prime.
Their window started before Toronto's, right? So it's been a little more lengthy. Where at some point something has to change. Like, what is it? I think their defense for the last few years has been their somewhat of their strength. Like you look at that defense and you think before they got Forbort and Gustafsson, the reason they brought Forbort and Gustafsson in was, they were having they had injuries. Like you got Giordano before Hanifin, you had Dougie Hamilton, you still had TJ Brody, you still had Travis Hamonic, you had Rasmus Anderson. At what point do you change something else, right? You made that change on your D-core for whatever reason you want to say, whether it's because he didn't show up he wanted to go to a museum or whatever the hell it is. My biggest concern is that, they're going to go sign a big contract for a goalie and then screw themselves over.
I like just having a quick look. I don't think big issue goalie with Cal. I know it's regardless. It is a problem, and I've defended Sean Monahan before, but I think they need another center. That's.
I was about to say that.
I get anxiety about not having centermen, but I mean, so you've got Monahan. I think he'd be much better if you had somebody on the second line, someone can take a bit pressure. And I'm someone who said he was a bit underrated, but like is Mikhail Backlund really the best guy to help strengthen your core? Derek Ryan's fine. And then Dylan Dubé is a young guy, but I don't think he has the ceiling to really be a difference-making centerman.
This year, I remember they played Lindholm on the top line to kind of, as the top line center, to kind of like change things around. It also didn't work at all. It was like the same result.
Mm-hmm. Then the question becomes, who do you trade to get that second line center? Because I don't know if they could have good prospects, but I don't think their prospect pool is big enough, or their prospect pool has that much trade value, right? So I think the question then becomes what you're going to package a bunch of prospects and picks to bring in a second line center and to completely deplete the farm, which is really frowned upon.
How about this? Okay. How about this? I know he's not. We kind of argued there with their players, but how about this? There's a centerman in Montreal we just talked about training.
Max Domi?
Maybe.
So is Max Domi a center? Because I know.
Yeah, no, he's played most his time as center. He played a bit of wing and wasn't good.
Because I know there was that issue. There was the issue when Domi came in. Is he a centerman or not?
And they had the same. Okay. Or Galchenyuk. He is a centerman. Don't worry. That's good. He is. Yeah.
But is he? Then it becomes okay. If let's say you trade Max Domi, is he the second line center? Like, how much of an improvement is Max Domi over Mikhail Backlund is the question.
I think it's a step up. Yeah, that's a good question. How much is it? Yeah.
How much of a step up is it worth trading someone for Max? Is it worth trading someone a significant piece or pieces for Max Domi? Is it that much of a step up that it changes everything?
Then you know what? It really does make you wonder what they can do, because off the top of my head, there's no big centerman in free agency. And if anything, I think Calgary will make the mistake of signing a Holtby or something to a massive deal.
See that happening.
Yeah, the Flames are another bad summer away. There's always kind of been something off about the Flames to me. That just leaves a bad taste in my mouth.
They're praying for a compliance buyout because that Milan Lucic money is coming right off the books.
Indeed, but it doesn't sound like that's going to happen, which I cannot stand.
I'm not surprised.
Okay, we're getting into red flag territory, in my opinion. We're going to start off with the Edmonton Oilers, who have about $500,000 in space. Now, see, this year is not really or next year isn't really like huge. Like, oh God, it's burning down for me.
Yeah.
Because I look at, by the way, what a journey the Oilers cap friendly pages. There's like a bunch of buyouts, retained. It's such a fun thing to look at. But I look at their UFAs and RFAs this year. I'm like, okay, nothing here screams, "Ooh, we gotta get that guy." I mean, even Andreas Athanasiou.
Yeah.
But it comes in 2021, 2022 is when I think start getting bad for the Oilers. And that, of course, would be RFA. And we don't know how – he's only had one great season, but Kailer Yamamoto will be up.
Mm-hmm.
And Riot Nugent Hopkins.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Because let's say, okay, next year they have $10 million in cap space. They have to – I think you bring back – Andreas Athanasiou. He could be your third line center. Tyler Ennis. I do. Listen,
favorite of the show.
We like him.
I do think you try to bring back Tyler Ennis because I think it's a guy. If you need to, we saw him play and he looked okay playing with Connor McDavid.
Cheap winger.
Cheap winger. I don't know if you necessarily bring back Mike Green. I think that was just one of those trade deadlines things.
Rental, yeah.
Hopefully, he does play in the play-in round. And Matt Benning. So really, not a lot.
Jim. No, it really.
Right.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah. I think you're right. It really. What happens the year after, okay, Alex Chiasson's money comes off the books. Jujhar Khaira, what you do with him, Kailer Yamamoto. How much of a raise does Ryan Nugent Hopkins get?
I really
like where he is. Yeah.
Like I think he could get as much as 7 because he can like Nuge can score. He's like an upgraded version of Dano in my opinion that he can score and he like his two-way game's really improved. Maybe it's not to the level of Phil, but of Kessel of course. No, I'm joking. But really his like I really like Nuge. I think he could get some good I think like say what you want about Edmonton, but I think his stock's gone up this year and last.
Absolutely.
I think so. Like I'm comparing him to Sean Monahan right now. We just talked about him, but Nuge does his job. Yeah.
Yeah. And another guy who needs a contract, and it's a little bit of a controversial one, but it's Adam Larsson.
You don't let that guy walk for what you gave up.
He's right-handed, and he's let's not forget, this guy, when people really picking on him, his dad passed away. That's not easy for people.
Yeah.
And you're playing in the Canadian market when you're going to get picked apart when you're
playing in
Edmonton.
You're playing in Edmonton.
I think you keep him, but
you do keep him.
I think the best thing for Adam Larsson, though, was a new change of scenery.
Probably, and you're definitely right. I think the issue is he was traded for Taylor Hall, and this is a top 6 guy, and I don't think Adam Larsson is a top pair defenseman.
No,
I think
yeah.
In New Jersey, I thought it was going to be.
Man, they won the lottery for him. Woo!
I do think he's a 3-4, right? And I think that's good to have on your team. Looking at the other defensemen that they have, Philip Broberg, Evan Bouchard, Dmitry Samorukov, right? So I do think that he could be a filler guy, but I do think if he goes to the open market, that he could get a longer term contract. I just don't know if Edmonton's the team to give him that longer term contract.
Mm-hmm.
You just cash him in for assets, and then
I think it depends on how Bouchard progresses.
Mm-hmm. Wait, we didn't mention Ethan Bear. I'm a big fan of him.
Ethan Bear, that guy. Well, he had a really good year.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were very high on him. And the question is, what does Ken Holland do?
Are you going to break the bank on Ethan Bear?
I say bridge deal.
I don't think breaking the bank. I don't know if that was ever in question. I think it's, do you give him a multi-year deal and hope that he does it again? Like I get he's 23 and still young, and I'm not comparing him to this guy at all. But as soon as Justin Hall got that 3-year deal, as soon as I snapped my finger, he was invisible.
Mm-hmm.
So do you give him a prove me deal and then see what happens? Like something like what Tony DeAngelo did this year? Because Ethan Bear, it seemed like from what I heard, from what I was hearing about in Edmonton, is that this guy really took a big step.
So, I give him the prove me deal. I don't know. I'm a big proponent of that. I like the prove me deals a lot.
The issue with the prove me deal is you got situation like Tony DeAngelo where that guy is going to get paid this summer. And then you got the situation like Kevin LeBanc where that guy is not going to get paid this summer.
Yeah. I don't think Edmonton risk it, but I don't know. Like that right side I'm looking at right now with them. I'm like, did they really risk it, or does Ken Holland go like, all right, let's give you a term now?
With Ethan Bear?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think we're going to see, like as a broad thing, I think we're going to see a lot of shorter term deals and a lot of bridges.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, let's be honest, until you win 3 Stanley Cups in whatever how many years and you're like a 36-year-old defenseman, that's when Ken Holland gives his big deals, guys. So, and sorry about that for a second. My mic was coming loose off the stand, so I had to fix it.
So you're saying Chris Russell is going to get his huge extension in 2 years?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll get I think he'll same salary, but you got to get that guy down for 6 years. Okay. See, the next two teams is the difference between Toronto and Vancouver.
Oh, Vancouver.
And we're starting with Vancouver.
I forgot Vancouver.
I forgot about Vancouver. The Leafs will at least have their big guys locked up. Okay, so Vancouver right now have $30,000 in cap room.
That's better than the Leafs.
So I just want to give you guys a little rundown of what the Leafs. It's don't worry, we're gonna get to that.
Zero.
It's like their cap hit is I love looking at the Leafs cap hit. So here's what I'm thinking is going to happen in Vancouver. Tanev's money, and a bit of this is from our episode with Harman Dial when he came us. Tanev's money is going to go to Markstrom, and if that doesn't work, you're going to Toffoli. Who I believe would take not a hometown, sorry, but will take a discount. And again, as Harman said, we can see a Jordy Ben deal. That's what you get, Jordy, for leaving Montreal. But of course, the story here is in the same season, Quentin Hughes and Elias Pettersson,
good Lord,
will both be up.
Sweet.
Okay, no. I actually think this is going to work in Vancouver's favor, and I'll tell you why. A market reset could do a lot of good for those RFAs. I'm just going to read you some stuff, okay? Now, again, Pettersson and Hughes are up in 2022, okay?
Yeah.
Now, by then, Suter and Pearson will both be off the books. Same with Edler and Bent, okay? That would give you about $16.1 million. I used to calculate that.
Here, I have the exact number they'll get.
What do you mean?
Like, I have the exact amount of cap space they'll have in that year. Do you want that number?
Yeah.
$40 million.
$40 million.
Yeah, but that doesn't. So, see, okay, so the issue is that number doesn't take into account how much Markstrom's going to get paid, how much and how much Toffoli gets paid, and assuming Tanev walks.
Then let me just go off what I have here of these guys who I've taken off then. Okay, so Edler will be gone probably by then. He's already on the last stretch. Again, Pearson, Suter, Jordy Ben will be gone by then. Okay, hold on. And by then, Roussel and Beagle will only have a year left. And I don't think it will be the worst. Ottawa, there will be a team by then that will take those bad deals for the right price.
Anaheim?
Yes. Anaheim will be one of them. Now, the problem is if it's $16 million, and again, every time it's July 1st, the Canucks spend, it looks like you'll be able to get one of them, but then I think the issue will be how does the market change by then for those young players? Because I was talking to Mike about this, that we all thought this market change happened last year of RFAs. But then the pandemic has just screwed everything. Now, I think one of these players, of Pettersson and Hughes, will be fine, but I think you're going to have a fight with the other one. That's how I kind of see this shaping out. What about you guys?
See, I wonder, yes, the market's going to change, but how much is the market going to change?
That's the $1 million question.
Right. I think that's the issue. That's the issue. Like a team like Vancouver is going to have, because at the end of the day, all these players are going to push, just like the RFAs did last summer. Right? Like Pietrangelo, if he leaves St. Louis, he's going to push for the most money possible.
Yeah.
You wonder, sorry, before you go on, just a quick thing I want to throw out there. You wonder what term will be like then as well, because I think Friedman said that a lot of guys might go shorter term, but sorry, continue, Alex.
No, yeah, like I think, I look at some of the deals. I look at Tanner Pearson, who had a semi-decent year, considering what he's gone through, from LA going to Pittsburgh, not working on Pittsburgh and getting traded to Vancouver. And, it seems like he's a completely different player. So, is there a market for Tanner Pearson? And that's 3.75 off the books for this year. But I really think the big challenge they have one big challenge this year, which is making sure that Jacob Markstrom comes back.
Mm-hmm.
The real challenge for Jim Benning comes next year when he has to re-sign Pettersson and Quinn Hughes. And, I think an even bit like along with that is, okay, I have to re-sign these two guys, but I have to bring in cheap guys. Like what Vancouver has to do, what Toronto kind of has done and has to continue to do in bringing in cheap guys like your Jason Spezza, like Tyler Ennis, to fill out the roster, right? So can Jim Benning do that? That's a matter of scouting professional players and saying, okay, this guy can come in cheap, and drafting properly.
About Judd Brackett.
We all know what's gone. And, we'll see the effects of Judd Brackett for the next couple of years, right? Because he was there, like he's been there up until the 2019 draft. But what happens 2020, 2021, 2022, right? Like, yes, Vasily Podkolzin, that could turn out, obviously we know that guy only dropped because he was from Russia. Or he was still going to be playing in Russia.
Yes.
Right. So that could be a really good pick for the team. It's just a matter of picking those second, third, fourth, fifth round guys who could potentially play in the NHL. That's my spiel on the Vancouver Canucks. Thank you for coming.
No problem. Thanks, Alex, for having us. What I kind of feel too is, I know this is the same thing I said about the Jets, but there's a lot of nitpicking where, man, like I'd love to have that $6 million back next year. When you look at Anton Roussel or Jay Beagle, they're making $3 million each, and it's a lot of money for these guys that you've talked about. These guys who would fill out your roster hypothetically speaking, and to commit that much money is still crazy. We don't talk about it too much, but that Louis Eriksson thing, that still really hurts seeing that.
Yeah.
Going on for it ends when it's a year too late. I feel with how they're going to kind of manage things. For what you said about Tanner Pearson, I agree. Like there's always going to be a place for him. He's a guy that he's a bit of a favorite of mine, where he fits into a top 9 really well. For that price point, his consistency, it's something where I could kind of say you could take a lower cap hit if he were to come back, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did try to trade him for like an asset.
Mm-hmm.
Flip it for like maybe a similar player or another depth forward or defenseman with a lower cap hit. Looking at their defense, like Troy Sketcher, I don't think he's coming back.
No, they were
not at all.
That's what Hartman said.
Yeah, I like Chris Tanev, but we'll see how that money kind of goes.
Alex, no, I was just getting another guy that Hartman brought up. Well, I had mentioned to him was Michael Furland, right? And saying, it just he mentioned that it just didn't seem like it was clicking.
No,
is that like he's $3.5 million? Like that's $3.5 million on the cap. So what does Jim Benning do with that? Obviously we haven't really seen him play because of concussions and then post concussion. What's the market for Michael Furland?
I think we should leave it with that question. Just because we've been going for about an hour and a half.
Okay.
And
we're hyped up about Canadian teams.
And we left the Leafs for freaking last. All right. So,
goddamn, why would
the Toronto Maple Leafs? Their cap space is 0. Their cap hit. Now
$95 million.
Now the salary cap is $81.5 million. The Maple Leafs cap hit is $95,178,332. All right, so here's what I have here.
Yeah,
and I said this earlier. The Leafs have the big guys locked up. Okay, you have Morgan Riley still for, I believe it's 2 more years after this.
Yes,
but the problem is after this year, whenever the definitive end of contract time is, Nathan Horton and David Clarkson's LTIR will be gone.
Yeah. So how much should we re-sign those guys for?
Okay. Hold on, Leagueman. Okay, and then you can. I mean, hey, I listen. You can do shenanigans. I don't think you can pull that off. I don't think you can pull that off. And then you talked about this the other day, Alex, is that over the next few years, Zach Hyman, Morgan Riley, and Frederick Anderson will all be up. So I'm going to put my clipboard down, and I'm going to throw it out there, guys. How are the Leafs going to
I don't know.
sail these seas? Because
I don't know.
If I have one question, it's that with this kind of – and I am in no way saying the Leafs are going to fall off a cliff. But the one question I kind of have is you have the elite talent up front. Be quiet. Is that how do you then improve the defense, which right now seems to be like for sure Morgan Riley –
and Justin
Cousin, and then Justin
and Rasmussen.
Yes.
Do you want me to go first, Daniel?
Yeah, go ahead.
If we're looking at the defense, I think there's a lot of issues.
I've missed this.
A lot of issues. You've missed what?
I've just missed this.
Me yelling?
Because we haven't just sat down and talked Leafs and Habs in so long. So like I've missed this.
I'll keep it short. I can try.
Don't worry, just let it rip, man.
Okay.
Like Beyblades.
I don't even know where the hell to start. But so I think the biggest issue is next season Hyman and Frederick Anderson are up. And a lot of people are saying Frederick Anderson is not coming back, which is fair, right? If I'm Frederick Anderson and I have a good season next year, I'm asking for more money for 8 years. And if Sergei Bobrovsky has taught anyone anything, you're not doing that. Like, I love Freddie. I just don't think it makes sense to sign a deal like that. Then what the hell do you do? You have Jack Campbell, and you have to bring in another guy. And you look at the market, I don't know what the hell you do. Like, there's like Matt Murray. Like, sorry, you're going to trade – where? What are you going to trade Matt Murray? How are you going to get Matt Murray? No one has the answer for that, but they're going to continue suggesting it. I don't know why. You know why? You know what Matt Murray's OHL team was? I think you're muted, man. Yeah.
Sioux Greyhounds.
Greyhounds. That's the only reason they're creating rumors for him to come to Toronto.
Fun rumors.
Fun rumors. Yeah. Just not going to happen. So that's a difficult situation considering that at that point they'll have, based on the $81.5 million, they'll have $13 million in cap space. That doesn't include them re-signing Ilya Mikheyev and Travis Dermott. Now, they have a couple other free agents. This year it's Kyle Clifford, which they've talked about re-signing. I don't know if you listened to the Steve Dangle episode where the rumors came out 3 years and it was like $2 million, which was
Steve had a history.
He was so mad, and it was one rumor, one guy, and there was no legitimacy to it.
You know his wife is in a good spot for having Leo because she's been changing Steve's diaper since the play-in, since COVID's coming.
Yeah, it was.
I love you, Steve. Just know that.
It was such a funny episode. So whatever you do with Kyle Clifford, like that's a guy you could potentially bring back on the cheap. Dennis Malgin, I don't know.
Everyone forgets he's a Leaf.
Dennis, I don't know. Like he's arbitration eligible. How much money is he possibly going to get?
exactly what he's getting now, I think.
Yeah, probably. Like maybe just under $1 million. Which
pop quiz.
Yeah.
Is Dennis Maligan left or right-handed?
Right-handed.
I believe he's right-handed.
All right, sorry. Go on.
Am I right?
I'll check. But it's just a point that people care so little about Dennis Maligan.
Yeah.
And he does shoot right.
Oh, okay.
Genius. Then you have Jason Spezza, who everyone like the Leafs, they do want to bring him back. Spezza wants to come back, so I'd assume it's something similar to what he's making now. 1 year, $700,000, fourth line center right there. Frederick Gauthier, I don't know what the hell you do with Frederick Gauthier. I'm sorry, I love the guy. I bet, like I usually say, he's probably a spectacular human being. But
we doing this again? Oh, he's a great guy. Just keep him off the bench.
I'm going to say the same thing about Cody Ceci. Like Cody Ceci, not coming back. And I think for their forwards, I really do think they're set, right? Pretty much their entire top six is set for at least this year and next year. Mm-hmm. Matthews, Tavares, Marner, Nylander, Hyman. The issues come down to, okay, my third line is Janssen, Kerfoot, Kapanen, which comes out to more than $9 million. I think it's 10. I think it's 10, just over 10. 10.1, right? So that's an expensive third line. Considering the Leafs cap situation. And I think we talked about this last episode just briefly at the end. There were rumors that one of Kerfoot, Janssen, or Kapanen is going to be traded. I think two of them at this point are going to be traded, and that opens up space to bring in a defenseman. And hopefully, I don't know who that defenseman is, who is right-handed and can play with Morgan Rielly. I don't think Morgan Rielly's ever had a good defensive partner.
You didn't like Ron Hainsey?
No, I didn't like Ron Hainsey. Sorry. Like, he was great he was good defensively, but everything else he was just not good at. He played with Nikita Zaitsev when Zaitsev was a rookie. He played with Dion. They threw this guy out to the Wolves and just let him get mauled for years. Like, this team is in such a tricky cap situation. I don't know what they're going to do.
I think sorry, no, go ahead, Daniel. Go ahead.
All right. Well, I kind of feel too. Like, Alex brings up a lot of good points. Like, the one thing I really wanted to focus on was, that third line where, you really got to have to, cut bait with one of these guys. Like, I think I've been an advocate before. Like, I know he's on, like, long-term injured reserve, but, like, Andreas Janssen, he's kind of guy where I kind of feel that, you could afford to kind of get rid of him.
Yeah.
You have these other guys coming up, like Pierre Engvall, signed his extension. He's a guy that I feel he could develop to be someone in the top 9. Mikheyev,
sure.
Yeah, Mikheyev, I hope he stays, or, at least stays healthy if the Leafs were to want to bring him back. It's kind of something where they have these pieces in place already where these guys keep coming up despite their cap situation. It's just kind of like, how are they going to use that now?
Right. And I'm looking at their minor system right now. Like, he only played a couple games. Yegor Korshkov. That's a guy who can play on your fourth line. Nick Petan, if you really need him to play, he could probably play.
He's still there?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's in the minors.
Adam Brooks, right? That's
Great
another guy. A great name. Another guy who played with the Leafs this year and on the fourth line didn't look too bad. In terms of Nick Robertson, I don't know if he makes the NHL next year, right? Like, I think that's really pushing it a little bit. Like, yeah, he scored. And I think the issue with Nick Robertson comes to, man, what are you going to do? Send him back to the OHL after scoring over a goal a game?
He's not getting any. It's just him wasting another year.
Yeah, like, I don't know if it – and, I mean, that's my issue with the CHL agreement where, like, there has to be exceptions, but that's another conversation for another day. Like I think in terms of forwards, I think they have multiple guys who can come up and fill out that bottom nine without you can get rid of your Janssen, your Kerfoot. The issue that I have with Janssen is his value is at his absolute lowest.
Yeah.
Quickly in terms of defensemen, I don't know what their top six looks like next year. They have all these guys. They have these guys. It seems like they're a lot of them are so unproven, right? You got your proven guys, Riley and Muzzin. Those are your proven big boys.
So we're assuming Cody Ceci doesn't come back.
Cody Ceci is not coming back. Tyson Barrie's gone. I think Travis Dermott gets re-signed. I think obviously takes a bridge deal.
Yeah.
What is Travis Dermott is the question that I think Leaf fans have been asking for the last few years. Can he play on the right is the second question they've been asking. Next year has to be the best time to try Travis Dermott on the right side playing with Morgan Rielly.
I think so. They're running out of time. Not really running out of time.
But I think they're running out of time because
he's going to turn 24.
He's running out of time, I think.
Yeah, because who's next? Rasmus Sandin, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how much he's played on the right in the minors, and I know he's played a lot with Timothy Liljegren, right? So I think that could, and I'm saying this with caution. I don't know if it's the best idea, but playing Sandin and Liljegren as your bottom pair, it's really risky considering they're both going to be. I think they're still be technically rookies.
Mm-hmm.
Do you try Mikko? Like you also have Mikko Lehtinen.
Yeah.
Right. So that's another guy to throw in there. So I really do think, and I hate saying this, but because you re-signed Jake Muzzin, Travis Dermott, I think his time is kind of running out depending on his salary. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what else to say about Travis Dermott.
So I guess, it's that willingness. Like, will he be able to play on another side? Because, the way things are kind of stacking up on that left side, he's not going to get the minutes.
And he's like Pierre Gasly. He's got to go for it now.
He needs to push.
Keep pushing, Pierre.
And Justin Holl needs to step up his game because as soon as he signed that extension, it looked like he disappeared.
Yeah, he was already – sorry,
I think for being on that right side, the ball's in his court. You got to prove, you're not just getting his money because of, that small streak and the fact that you shoot right.
You know what? Considering he's in Toronto, he has by far the lowest expectations because he's a right-handed defenseman and there's no one else.
Yeah.
You have the bar set so low. That's why I think everyone loved him because he played above the bar, which was, okay, be better than Nikita Zaitsev.
No problem.
Nope. Yeah. I'll do that in my sleep. So I guess I don't know.
They're in a tricky situation. That's the determination.
That's the headline. Leafs, like the syrup off of a tree, are in a sticky situation. That was.
I say off a pancake.
That's the name of the episode.
Sticky situation.
Yeah. Or
the sticky maple leaf on the sap of a tree.
That's too many words.
That's too long.
All right. You say that. Remember I named the award show the 2-1 Podcast Award Show of Excellence and Achievement Celebration?
Yeah, but I didn't read the headline that. I
was re-listening to that episode, by the way. It was so fun. We ripped on Daniel so much in that award show. Because he had the NCAA rookie of the year from the NCAA, but he's like, but I'm not going to count Hughes or McCarr.
Yeah, because I said no one is included in the first round.
Yeah, and then you were like, I'm going to have the Carey Award, and then we're like, oh God, here it comes. He's like, John Gibson.
Yeah, carrying the load award.
Oh my God! All right,
he made a good point on that one.
Do you guys have anything more to say on the Leafs then?
No, I've said my spiel.
Mm-hmm.
Just thinking of syrup now.
You can go back and listen to any of the first 30 episodes, and that's just me yelling on the Leafs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where was I? I was probably in class.
Yeah. No, it was in the summer.
I was in the summer. Okay.
You know what? When I listened to our old episodes, it felt like we were having a lot more fun. But this season has slowly drained, like, even just the, like, I think the Marner stuff really changed Alex. Like, it was like we were smiling and laughing, and now it's just like, yeah, 2014 play-in, let's scream about Hub Cities today, and, and Daniel's going to quit because Adam and Alex are fighting.
Sometimes when that happens, like, I don't know where to look. I'm too scared to interrupt one of you.
Fun times.
Yeah. Don't be afraid. We're nice. It's just like sometimes I want you to know, like, I'll say it on air here. A lot of the times, Daniel, I won't even notice, and maybe Alex is the same way, because I'm just so into what I'm trying to get across, where I'm just like, I'm screaming here, and then I'll listen back to the episode, I'm like, wow, we just steamrolled over Daniel there.
I know.
But we love you.
No worries, man.
Yeah, and we love you, the listeners. And if you enjoyed this episode of the show, because I did, I think Alex did. Daniel, you guys too?
I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
Sweet.
I did.
Be sure to go check out the show's YouTube page, as previously mentioned, for a visual experience. You can go check out the show's Instagram and Facebook page for some hockey discussion. Why not? Check out all 3 of our social medias, all in the description below, or wherever.
Quickly before we go.
Yeah.
Lando Norris finished in 3rd place. Okay, that's all I'm going
to say. And Charles Leclerc.
Alex Albon will rise again.
Alex Albon.
Alex Albon's in the gravel right now.
He will rise again.
Be sure to check out the show's iTunes. Subscribe on iTunes, follow Spotify, all that kind of stuff. Leave a 5-star rating. It helps get the show the new ears. And leave a review. Who are you rooting for F1? Because let's be honest, as Sebastian Vettel said, everyone's a Ferrari fan. Goodbye, and we'll see you next time.